Alright, hello everyone. So I'm Yuginshin, and this is the current version of the Beast Mastery Spirit Walker that I did in the previous video. So after that video, I realized it's very hard to make a character that uses companions and their own damage scaling, scaling both of them. Effectively, the monkey hit way too hard and the bear was OP, so I felt like my character was doing nothing aside from giving useless damage multipliers the companions could have gotten from their own supports. So from that point, I tried using Tyranny's Grip, which is, I believe I have it in here, this unique spear that I got a rune mastered version. I put break armor, it has this huge damage roll, and I was using it to boost the damage of the monkey and the bear. I thought it would be more fun if I, leaned in further into them, so I did that with a scepter with +2 to minion levels, and it just made it less fun. The weapon was too slow, so I couldn't attack anyway, so it just didn't solve the problem. So I caved, I changed and gave up on this idea I had of me and the beasts going in together. I still have some of that here because it's the Spirit Walker, you always have the bear, right? I'm using the bear as a support right now instead of as the main damage, which I think is a much better way to go for right now. But I do now know that there's more things I could have done to make my original plan work better, but I tunnel visioned, so this is where we're at. So since then, I've moved on and bought Redemption. I paid way too much for it because it was like day 2 of the league, or no, day 3, right? And I got this like terrible rolls. Like the increased fizz is almost min, the reduced cooldown is min, the only good roll is the explosive rhythm. And then I, qualityed it up, gave it the grenades explode again rune, which is really cheap, and the Sky Sakawal's rune for the damage extra for each element, which is like 5th element, which is 15% more damage it looks like, or increased 15% base damage. So from there, I respec'd out of the bosses of Tame the Silver Fist. I took that out. I took out the Katha's Balance, the main node I was using to actually support my companions by giving them damage based off my weapon. Took all that out, and I refactored the whole build around Redemption. I changed the whole tree, and now I'm actually progressing and having a much better time. So let's start off with what this is now, and we'll go over the weapon, the gems, the tree, and then the rest of the gear. And then I'll talk about some of the pain points, and then we'll do a mapping showcase in specifically this easy tier 11 map. This shouldn't be hard, so this should be a reasonable thing to do. So for now, let's talk about the Redemption. So everyone saw the video when they showed this off. It was the hypest thing they've done. They gave us a gun that just shoots grenades. That's awesome. So what this actually does now, let me pull it up permanently with this nice feature. This lets us shoot no bullets. So we can't do any of the ammo types that crossbows do. We can't even use this as a crossbow. It's really just a grenade launcher, but it has this huge damage roll. And this version has a massive increased damage to make up for its no critical damage bonus. Now, you can get the Charthing Cannon as a base type, and it won't have most of this stuff on it, but it still would have a very high damage roll. At least for a ranged weapon. But what this gives us is no critical damage bonus. We can still crit, so we can trigger things. I don't have anything in the build that does that right now, but that's a real option. And then we also get explosive rhythm, and that's the most important thing. This gives you 10% increased cooldown recovery every 2 times you use a grenade skill, because I have the lowest roll. Well, not lowest, the highest roll, the best roll. Which after about 8 grenades, it counteracts the downside of the gun itself, which is the reduced cooldown recovery rate, because reduced and increased go against each other. And once you get to 10, which doesn't take very long, it's like 20 grenade skills. So when you get to a boss, you're just going to spam whatever cheap weak grenades you have to set it up, and then you just cluster grenade them to death. So this lets you turn this 10%, which stacks up to 100% increased cooldown recovery rate, into a buff that gives you attack speed per different grenade so you can shoot them faster. They ignore their cooldown, shoot an extra projectile, and explode immediately. It feels so good to use this, but it costs a lot of mana, and that's something I still am working on. Like, it's bad. Like, if you look at these grenade uses, the cost gets pretty high when you can spam them quickly. So now we can move on to our gems, so I can show you that. Let's go up to the top here. So we're not using the grenade basic attack. This comes from Charthan cannons. You just get a basic grenade attack, which is really cool, admittedly, that they even do that. I didn't know that until I bought the gun. I had never actually used the Charthan cannons I found in the campaign. We can't crossbow shot because Charthan cannon. And I do have a weapon swap, but I'm not using it. I just have it. Wild Protector is the bear. So this comes with these really powerful abilities. It has maim, it leeches itself when it slams, and it's War Cry, which is a War Cry if you ever wanted to support it with Raging Cries or something to give it rage. That intimidates, which is a 10% increased damage taken and 10% reduced damage dealt. So it's very powerful in and of itself as a support. Giving it meat shield because it doesn't need to deal damage in this version of the build. It is just a support, so it makes it last longer. Romir's Requital doubles down on its taking damage before you, which we'll get to when we get to the passive tree. And this is 10% taken from the minion, so it's basically 10% less damage taken while it's alive. And you recoup that, which is actually quite valuable. It keeps me alive. And the less life, we're compensating that with hulking minions. As the gigantic, I believe, is 20% more life, which hard counters that, so that puts us down to 10% less instead of 30% less. It's very solid. I don't have a fourth support for it right now. At one point, I tried out Uruk Smelting, but I just didn't remember that I don't have any way of breaking armor on the build, so it doesn't matter. Then we have the Stags, and these things hit like a truck. So they have a huge flat because of the hand cannon. Because these are a attack skill. For some reason, they scale with your weapon. So we get shocked ground after they leap the whole time, which a lot of the time that's going to miss the enemies in front of you. We get high shock chance, solid conversion to lightning, so any elemental boosts to this actually do something of value. But then we get supported with lightning exposure. Because it's more likely to shock, when it does do that, it's going to give us exposure, which will then give us 20%, I believe, on this exposure. Yeah. So it's 20% exposure, which is solid. That's just more damage. We also get 100% more chance to shock on top of this. So these should add together to 150% more chance to shock, with a solid amount of damage coming into it. Then I put on area, just because they have a basically almost like a slam when they jump forward. And that increases the size of that to get bigger chance of actually hitting dudes, especially large groups. And elemental armament for more damage, for more shocks, to cause more exposure. Simple. Now, Primal Bounty, that's the owl. The owl is the best part of the build when you have your feathers, which right now we have 3 feathers. If I dodge roll, it'll trigger. So, see, dodge roll, now we have this buff for about 8 seconds. So our next thing shoots extra projectiles. So instead of shooting 3, that's shot 4 or 5 or whatever. And we can roll again. Yeah, shot 5. And they all exploded twice. And that's why the owl is, I think, the best thing about being a Spirit Walker for grenades. And we put Armor Demolisher in here because it's just a funny reality of the owl. When you go to put anything in, it has no recommended support gems because it has only trigger as attack. And then if you look at everything that can go in there, you have Armor Demolisher to do anything. This doesn't have a cost. It doesn't have a cost, so there's nothing you can actually socket in here except for Olroth's Conviction, which we don't have. Which I can pull that up here. It's extremely powerful for this build if it works, where it gives you the life and mana cost extra runic work cost, but it empowers 2 additional skill uses So instead of shooting once, then dodge rolling, then shooting, and then having to wait for more feathers, dodge roll once, shoot 3 times with full power. So when I get this, it's going to be a big buff if it works. I don't know if it works because the game's bugged, but I'm very excited to get there. And now we can move on to the actual attacks. So we'll go to the grenades. There's not much to talk about with some of these, but there's some fun stuff here. So gas grenade, the obvious, we're just trying to get that explosion. For just another source of big hit damage, right? Like the explosion is solid. It's basically another explosive grenade. So I'm good enough just forcing this explosion whenever I can. And spamming these to build up redemption stacks. That's all it's for. It's short fuse, so it blows up faster. Magnified area, elemental armament, because that fire damage is strong. I don't know if short fuse is helping right now, but I like it. Then we have our explosive grenade, which is the bread and butter, is the main damage source, it's the most important thing. We don't generate any heat, so we're not actually able to use the 50% damage as fire, gained as extra. But we get to have short fuse, elemental armament, multi-shot 2 for 2 projectiles, so it shoots 3 by itself. When you dodge roll with the feather, with how we have it right now, because we don't have a 4th ascendancy yet, it'll shoot 5, which is a lot. And then we have payload on it, which increases the cooldown, which sucks, but 50% chance to activate a second time puts us up to 75% chance. I'll explain how we get there when we get to the skill tree and the weapons and the gear, but you may have seen it when we hover at the redemption. And now we have cluster grenade. This is supposed to be the giga button. This is supposed to feel really, really good, and it's not. It's really not. I thought it would do way more damage than it does, but it just isn't, and it feels weird. It may be that it's because of how it hits, it's just missing a lot of the extra explosions. But I have cooldown recovery, multi-shot payload, and short fuse. So maybe I'm just misunderstanding what it's for, but it feels like it's not doing much. Even if it is, it just feels weak. And now we have the zone denial oil grenade. It has that burning ground effect when you ignite the oil, which is actually very, very powerful. And it also does the exposure. So we have 2 sources of exposure to make sure it always is on. Even when we forget to press oil grenade, the stags will do it. Remember to press oil grenade, it'll make sure everybody gets it. And the oil ground actually does a huge amount of damage. Like, it adds its own fire damage as damage to the ignite, which is really, really big, and it full converts. So we've actually treated it as a support skill though, with potent exposure, persistent ground, so it lasts longer, so I have more time to set on fire. Because setting on a fire does not destroy the oil ground. It just ignites it, because that's part of the move. So there's no downside to this. Then we get increased area for bigger oil spills. Now, the damage on the oil ground doesn't show up here, but it's reasonable enough that during a breach, oh, here it is, it's going to kill things pretty fast. At least for the normal monsters, without me actively trying to kill them. I don't have a 4th support for it. I don't really know what to do with it right now, but I do like it. Now, our MVP grenade is the flash grenade. It has our fun new Calgarian support concussive runes. This one actually requires some talking about. So, flash grenade sets up our heavy stuns to give us a safe damage window on bosses. It's very useful because you have some lag in your damage with this build, because the grenades have to, even with their shorter detonation times from all my supports and skill tree, they still have that lag. So if you can get a stun and get the redemption prop, you can go on a tear for about 3 seconds of the boss just getting destroyed. Feels really good. So we support it with stun for more stun buildup, which is very valuable. Elemental armament, because this is a damaging skill. Now, it's not inherently an elemental skill, but the elemental scaling on it really isn't bad. Now, I do probably need to swap this for a different support, because I didn't even notice how much physical damage I was dealing. So I can probably actually get this even higher. Multi-shot is giving it more projectiles. Now, I don't know if that actually shotguns with this skill specifically, but it should in terms of how much stun it builds up. And then we have concussive runes. So this thing is a melee slam that works on our grenade skill for some reason. And I say it works because when I shoot out the grenade skill, flash grenade sometimes doesn't kill the guy, but then the rune will proc under him and kill him. So I'm quite sure it's working because it's spending all of my ward. Because it's spending my ward, I know for a fact it's triggering. So this is pretty solid because this damage number is basically the same as the grenade. Actually, it's higher than the grenade. And it's going to proc every single time we stun. The problem is I can't see its damage on here. Normally you get a little tag here for things, but I just don't have it. So we don't know how much it's doing. But it's a lot. It's a full-on grenade hit that is relatively large and is not going to do pretty much anything to a boss because it only procs one time. But for clear, this is massive. Like, it's so good because now flash grenades is an actual clear skill, which feels so cool because it's the fastest exploding grenade in the game. It explodes literally in less than a second, and with all the support from the tree, it's probably exploding in half a second, if not less. It's really nice. Then we have our spirit reservations. So we have Mirage Archer. It's only 17. I don't really know if this is doing much for me, but it's cluster grenade. We're spamming it. And with cooldown recovery, multi-shot, which this is the wrong multi-shot, so I have to fix that. And payload. So sometimes it'll blow up twice, which when this goes off, it does create a huge amount of explosions when everything procs. It feels really good, but it just doesn't seem like it's doing that much damage. So maybe it's because the multi-shot's wrong, or it's just multiplying this 30% less with this 35% less is what's killing it. And that doesn't get much better when it's 55% less instead of 65% less. So we'll see, but I may end up cutting this for something else. And then we have Remnants of Calgar, because anytime you stun or kill, you get ward, remnants, which give ward. And they can overflow your ward, so I can go up to like 500 something. But because it triggers on stun, then it's pretty much always active. I can never run out of ward via concussive grenades. Concussive runes. Because this required the stun to even happen. So it just automatically works. And it feels really good. It's nice picking up all these runes. And sometimes you do live because you have an extra 500 life that you really shouldn't have, right? So that survived me sometimes a slam from the silver fist everyone's been hunting, right? Sometimes you can live through that with this and your deflection proc. Like, that's about all you got. So we can now look at our skill tree, which is pretty unconventional, but I don't know how to build a grenade build. So I'm sort of just taking what I can from what other people are doing. And I saw one person, not one person, but a few people using redemption on Spirit Walker, but there isn't much to really pull from there. So I'm just sort of guessing as I go and combining a bunch of sources. So we'll look at our ascendancy first. We have our bear. Bear is good. We all know bear is good. We have some crit chance, which is useless right now, but owl is good. We know owl is good. Some movement speed. I didn't know this gave movement speed as a small node. That's really cool. And the Viv Stampede. This is good. It's just good. But we get Sacred Unity. This is where things get more interesting, right? So this makes the bear give us Regan, which is not a small thing. It is kept me alive. It makes the bear take 8% of my damage, which added with Ramirez Requital, we're at 18% taken by the bear instead of me, which is solid. It makes the stags auto target, which really helps out with clear and making sure that you get that shocked ground everywhere, get that the shocks on everybody. It's also very useful on console because the console already has a weird auto target that's not very good, so the stags help supplement that. Then we have the owl leaves soaring ground. That's the least useful part, but because your grenades only shoot that one little line, right? You're gonna have one line of grenade to go on. You're going to go like 10 feet because you don't have a long range projectile. The grenade stops short. So you'll have a little bit of evasion, damage, and onslaught for like 1 second. Literally that linger 1 second is all you really get because you're gonna dodge roll again or move off the line. It's really not that great. So that's the least useful part, but it's a free passive because you took all three. And these are all good. Like, I'm not taking one that's bad. Now, for the fourth ascendancy, we could get idolatry and buff our companion damage. Why? We can tame a boss. That could be cool, but why? We could get more wisps, more damage, more shock. That's actually very strong. So it's that you keep using the stags over and over again. This, I think, is the most powerful one. Because once you spend all 3 feathers, you end up shooting like 6 or 8 extra grenades, and you'll build the feathers faster. And if you have the all-out cultivation, or whatever it was called, something like all-out conviction, I think. If that works with this, that's like 8 grenades 3 times, and then you'll probably be able to roll again and get another 8 grenades. Like, it's going to feel really strong. And then the Katha's balance doesn't really do anything for us. Like, it would make the bear hit harder, but that's about it. It's sort of useless if you don't also have the natural order. So that's the ascendancy. Now I'll go highlight some of our interesting parts of the tree. Most of this is subject to change. Like the evasion area is all stuff that's left over from my previous iteration. So we got some stuff here. We got this useless accuracy. I don't know if it even helps with grenades very much, but heavy ammunition, solid grenade node, 40% damage, 40% stun, really good. Some elemental resist, penetration, and some AoE, solid. We have this whatever appears our evasion. It's not super important, but the 8% dexterity was nice. We have a jewel. It's not very great, but it's a jewel. I'm not mad. It has 2 damage rolls, so I'm happy about that. This node is actually really cool because the companion AoE makes the intimidate really, really strong. Like, it hits basically the whole screen around that bear and gives you some AoE with that 12%. So that's actually pretty nice. Then we're taking multitasking is another interesting one because the cooldown recovery rate is nice and the skill effect duration I think works with empower skills to make them last longer. So you can generally start your next fight with it already empowered a lot of the time as you roll through the map. And the cooldown is nice, right? Getting 25% cooldown, or not 25, 22% cooldown is really good for these grenades. We got volatile grenades for reduced detonation time, which I like this stat a lot. So that's just a personal preference. Some people I've seen use explosive shots just blow up the grenades manually. Then we have Grenadier. This is of course the most important grenade node. You sort of have to have it to be a grenade build. Now for Spirit Walker specifically, Presence Present actually is useful, as we always have the bear, right? The bear is immortal. Every time it dies, it comes back to life in like 5 seconds. It's not a big deal if it dies. And it's just a solid damage wheel, right? Like 10, 16, 16, 35. It's pretty good. And then we have repeating explosives. This is a mandatory, I believe, grenade node, because activate a second time is just 15% more damage. We can really just call it that, right? Then we have Demolitionist, which is how we're getting a little bit extra fire damage on every skill, because we're pressing all our grenades. Every fight, I'm pressing all of them all the time. I don't know if I even should be doing that, but it's what I'm doing. And we get this little extra bit here because actually shouldn't be a small passive. It is, it shouldn't be because it's so impactful for being a small passive. It's literally 10% less than a notable. Like, that's ridiculous. So that's where we're at right now. Might even take this cooldown at some point. But we have some points going up here. I think I was trying to get to this blind thing for attack speed. I don't know if that's even good. I just saw someone doing it, and I'm not going to question. I'll just try, and if I don't see any difference, I just take it off. Right? It's very simple. So now we can move on to the last part, which will be our gear. So we went over the gun. We can go over the runes here. Chance every second time, damage extra elements, that's there. We have this helmet. So the helmet gives us life, evasion, ward, and resist. And the ward is actually relevant. This is a lot of ward for a helmet. I think this was going to be like a 900 evasion helmet. So it was actually pretty solid. It was close to 900 at least. And turning that into ward hurts, but the ratio wasn't that bad, all right? So I'm not mad about that. Then we have this body armor, which I did not get used for ward because I actually would rather keep the evasion and armor on this. And this is a lot of my life, right? A lot of life is on here. It solves my dexterity for Mirage Archer, and it gives me, my resistances. My gloves are damage, resist, and life. And the mana leech, which I think the mana leech is actually very useful because I chug mana potion all the time with this character to sustain the infinite grenade spam. Like, that's a real issue this character has. And with the leech changes, you really don't have enough leech, honestly. I think I actually need more. And then we have the boots, which are, I've had these since I got to the end game. I got them on the cheap, with 20 movement speed, fire, chaos, life. Then we have our jewelry. We have this amulet, which I just bought not too long ago for +2 projectile levels. That pushed me over the hump to actually be able to clear the red maps in Delirium okay. But Delirium is so far just felt horrid. So I don't know if I'm going to keep even going that route. I want the uniques from it, but I don't think it's worth it right now until my character is way stronger. I haven't even done the precursor stuff, so I probably should do all that first. But this is giving me my plus levels, my strength, life, flat mana, which is 171 mana for a context. Plus your rate is 137. That's a whole extra cast before I have to actually use the potion. So that's a massive amount. And I may need more mana sustain options somewhere else. And we have our jewelry, our rings, which this is just for resist and damage. I happen to get it with rarity. I would have rather had life because I'm tired of dying. I don't die a lot because I temper what content I do with this character. I have not done like anything above a tier 13 map, and that took multiple deaths because it was like 120% delirious, which that wasn't fun. And then we have this ring, which is same thing, resist, dexterity, and damage with some accuracy and evasion, just cuz. But then we have the belt, strength, life, resistances, right? There's a theme here. I don't really have anything special or interesting in any of these slots. The runes are just resists, like across the board to solve my problems. Then we have our charms. We have a bleed charm, which is whatever. Chaos Res charm is actually useful. I'm gonna probably actually be able to do rituals with this. And I can't even use this because I am missing a charm slot. I didn't even realize that. I took off my charm slot. Okay, that's great. When I changed belts, I lost one. And the flasks are stuff I had from the campaign. I actually should probably swap some of these for unique variants, or at least the mana flask could probably be the constant one. That might help a lot. So we'll see about that. But that's the character build. So let's go ahead and actually run a map here. And I'll do this quietly, so don't expect any vocals from me. We'll run this one. We're gonna put this in here. So this is actually ambush for crits. evasive, armored. These monsters are tanks. We have Delirium because why not? See if we can do it, right? And we have Overseer for Empowered Boss and more rares, which is just so I can get more maps. All right, so see you on the other side. Thanks for watching, everyone. And I will hear about this in the comments about how great this video is or how terrible it is. I don't actually know. So hopefully you like and comment that you liked it or didn't like it. And if you don't like it, please tell me why so I can edit and fix that for the next videos going forward. Because I want to actually start getting into making some content for Path of Exile and other games. So please comment any, help or advice you have or anything you want to talk about or anything about the build. Thank you very much.
Don't have enough mana. A glutton for punishment. Your mana's gone.
Need more time.
You're up to
Hold on. Need more time. Wet.
You seemed to enjoy